Hi, I'm Denise, and today my devotional comes from Luke chapter 22, and this is the Last Supper that Jesus has with his disciples before going off to the cross. So I'm just going to read to start off from Luke chapter 22 verses 18 till 22, and it's from the NLT version. So it says, "For I will not drink wine again until the kingdom of God has come." He took some bread and gave thanks to God for it. Then he broke it in pieces and gave it to the disciples, saying, "This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." After supper he took another cup of wine and said, "This cup is the new covenant between God and his people, an agreement confirmed with my blood, which is poured out as a sacrifice for you. But here at this table, sitting among us, a friend is the man who will betray me." So yeah, here Jesus is having his last supper with his disciples before going off to the cross, before going off to endure the trial. And I just imagine how lonely is Jesus really feeling in this moment, knowing that's ahead of him, knowing that suffering lies ahead. Yet he still goes to the garden before the trial and he still prays to God, "Not my will, but yours." Even in the midst of the uncertainty and the unknown, Jesus still prays that his will be done. And then I just want to jump till verse 20. After supper he took another cup of wine and said, "This cup is the new covenant between God and his people, an agreement confirmed with my blood, which is poured out as a sacrifice for you." His blood was poured out for me and you. It was poured out for us. It was so that we could have a relationship with him. He made a way. Even on that cross, he was thinking of us and we were on his heart. And I just imagine, what would life look like if we remembered that every day, that on that cross, we were on his heart. Being a Christian isn't always easy, but it's far from boring. We know we're never alone and we always have someone with us on this journey. But I'm just going to jump to verse 22 now, and this is the bit where Jesus says, "But here at this table, sitting among us, a friend is the man who will betray me." Here we see Jesus is addressing Judas, but here Jesus just doesn't address Judas as the one who will betray him, but he also calls him a friend. He doesn't see Judas for his mistakes or for what he's going to do when he betrays him, but he calls him a friend. How many times does Jesus look at us, look past our mistakes and all the times we let him down, and calls us his friends? He looked past what we've done and gives us grace each time. Jesus still gave Judas a seat at the table. Jesus could have told Judas not to attend the meal because he knew what Judas was going to do. He knew how Judas was going to let him down and how Judas was going to betray him. But still Jesus reserved a seat for Judas at that table. He prepared him a meal. And he still brought him in, and he still showed him love, and he still fed him regardless of what he was going to do. Jesus looked past his mistakes. And I just love this because in a sense we are like Judas. Jesus chooses to look past our mistakes, even when we're faithless, even when we fail, even when we give in to the temptations. He looks past our mistakes and he still calls us his. He still brings us in, he still prepares us a seat at his table, and he still feeds us and looks past our mistakes. And just to end now, I just want to jump to Luke 23. So Jesus has been arrested and brought before Pilate, the governor, who found no fault in him. So Pilate sent him to Herod, who also found no fault in him. These two men were both in difficult positions because they both realised and recognised that Jesus had not committed any crime. He had done no wrong. These men were both in very difficult situations as leaders. But it says in Luke 23 verses 12, "Herod and Pilate, who had been before enemies, became friends that day." These two men hated each other. We are told they were enemies. But even in the midst of his trial, Jesus was in the midst of restoring relationships. He was fixing what was broken, and he was building up leaders for this country. Even in the midst, he's still restoring. Even in the midst of our situations, he's bringing people together, and he's building up people, and he's building up leaders and fixing what is broken. Good Friday isn't a story of defeat, it's a story of victory. It's a story of love. Regardless of our mistakes and failures, he still prepares us a seat at his table. He still welcomes us in, he still calls us his. Even today we can be in victory in our houses knowing that he has won this battle and this Sunday is coming. So thank you for listening, and I hope we're all staying safe.